Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you've never heard of one of these before, Twitter Spaces are a great way to connect with your friends, audience, and newcomers alike in a group audio chat live on Twitter. Listeners can raise their digital hand, and the host can bring them in to speak. The UFO Twitter community has these kinds of events going on all the time, and since I've started doing them with my buddies Ty from Total Disclosure and Astral, I've decided to start recording them and uploading them as a series on my channel. The subjects can vary, but the conversation has a nice flow, and it's great getting so many different people involved in it. This is episode 1, a test run of sorts, and I'll be making some changes to the final products here and there as time goes on. With that being said, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy. How are you, Ty?
I'm fine. Just trying to figure out what everyone's thoughts are on, I've been hearing a lot more about hearings, open hearings in Congress, for everything that's going on. I think in my opinion, is our open congressional hearings going to further the subject in a way that, like the next congressional hearings we have are, is it going to get us to disclosure quicker? Do I agree? Do I think that? Maybe no, probably not. It seems like it's a dog and pony show at times, especially the evidence from the first ones. It seemed like not even Scott Bray did his homework before then. I hope everyone, if there are hearings that are coming up, I hope not just the representatives do their homework, but everybody do their homework.
Right.
Coming a little bit, not like when I believe they asked him about the Rendlesham Forest incident. I can't remember exactly which case he asked him about, but Scott Bray answered with, I've heard that story before, but not in an official capacity, and right. I find that to believe.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like whenever anything like that is said, there's like a 50-50 coin tosses chance that that's not necessarily true. I mean, and it wouldn't surprise me, right? So I think, to your point about it, will it get us disclosure sooner? I don't know if not that it would, I don't think it's going to get us disclosure sooner, like as far as affecting the timeline, but I feel like it gives us a better chance of getting disclosure in general, right? Like, I don't think it's so much speeding up the process as much as it is another little small puzzle piece to the process of actually having it happen to begin with. As far as speeding it up, there are very few things that I believe could actually, make this happen as fast as we would all like for it to happen.
Yeah, and I would really, I love the hearings because I think it's just good to see that some sort of discussion is happening with our representatives, and it, I think any of us in the community would be happy to have those meetings continue to happen on a frequent, non-frequent basis. But what are the real, what are the real programs that the legacy programs, all these things, those are the real dominoes that need to fall.
100%.
Before any advancement happens. So the legacy programs, the reverse engineering, I
don't mean to interrupt you, Ty, but I actually have to, because I saw it late last night and I really want to throw that into what you're saying. Did you or Astral happen to see the James Fox clip that I shared?
No, not yet.
I would highly advise you to watch that at some point during this space, because there was a lot that he was giving updates on as far as things happening behind the scenes in Washington, that were really heavy. The post itself was from an account that a lot of you guys are probably familiar with. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but his name is Michelangelo.
Yeah, he shares a lot of good clips.
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to Mike. I'll just read it real quick. It says, James Fox gives us a tiny peek with what's going on behind the scenes in Washington, D.C. More than 3 whistleblowers have testified to Arrow, which is also something that George Knapp has mentioned multiple times. These individuals have not gone public. UFO crash retrieval programs exist. Some whistleblowers are still employed in these programs. These whistleblowers can walk you inside the labs. I'm
Well, yeah,
like,
and
whoo.
you know that. So James Fox is currently his next documentary is more of a follow up to the phenomenon. It's not just a case specific study,
Right.
and he's doing a impound for currently on in Washington D.C. as part of the film, and he's spending like a month out there doing interviews with various folk, and I think what he's working on now is he really wants to ring the towel, if you will, as far as happening with because I know of two of the three that have testified so far. If they're if what they're telling us is true, so if the people that are testifying right now are legitimately actually testifying, then the conversation is much deeper and much more intricate than I think anyone is really thinking, which I think is good.
I do too. I absolutely agree. Asher, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just wanted to like
Yeah,
pop in and make sure you were
dude,
all right there.
I've never had my space glitch like that before. I had the music playing and like I was being muted and unmuted. I had to restart the app, but it's all good now. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you weren't like missing out on that because that's huge, right? Like, whenever James Fox gives an update like that, like it always finds its way to me, and it's always so exciting.
I mean, I was surprised on how credible. I hadn't really looked into any of his material or heard him speak before coming on really Twitter. So like less than a year ago, I hadn't even really looked into his stuff, but he seems to be extremely credible. Especially within the UFO community, whenever he comes out and says stuff.
Extremely credible. I can attest to that. And I mean, he's been at this for maybe longer than I've been alive. I mean, I remember watching his earliest documentaries like as a kid. So he's very tied into the UFO community. I feel that a lot of people, whether it be some of the bigger names, and then there's people like us, and then the people who are just like here for the ride. I feel like it would be very difficult for you to find someone that doesn't trust him or thinks that he's BSing. I've never heard honestly, this is true. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about James Fox. I can honestly say that.
I have.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this kid. Steve, what the fuck is his name?
Cambion.
Yeah.
No, I know I've seen him on Twitter a few times. I don't know much about the guy. I just know that he makes content and whatnot. But yeah, that's news to me. The only thing I can say is I just don't agree.
Yeah, he was calling. I remember when Moment of Contact came out, he was calling Moment of Profit, and I think that. Listen, I there's a lot of folks in UFO Twitter that I think talk a big game and don't really necessarily back it up. Not that I mean I've not been here for too long, but there's a lot of folks that I think are taking advantage of some of the more I don't know how to say it. Not taking advantage of people, but definitely aren't. They're in it because they want to go against the.
They're capitalizing off of that, the opposite side of things. So again, I'm not going to go into who and what, but that's a niche, right? There's people who have just jumped on to be like, well, I'm going to debunk everything. And
and I dealt with a lot of these people. Like I dealt with a lot of them in the podcast I used to do, and the industry that I come from. There's a lot of those types, the gatekeeper types, and you just gotta kind of wade through the water and take what you can out of it. But this topic is just it's too vast and fun to get hung up with all that stuff. And
well, I think too, it's good to be skeptical, dude. Like it would be preferred for people to be skeptical, but I think once you start personally attacking people for their credibility and digging in so much that you're getting personal, it gets a little freaking weird.
Yeah, no question. It does, and it goes way too far sometimes, as I've seen over the last month on Twitter, there's been some things where I'm like, this came out of people on the internet talking about UFOs. Like, how did it even lead to that? It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad that, even if when a topic gets or goes mainstream, right? This is something that we've all seen. When a topic goes from, say, niche or fringe to a little bit more mainstream, there are going to be the people that attach their wagon to the wheel,
Yep.
and
Yep.
take the ride with you. And it's always going to happen. And I see a lot of people getting hung up on it, hung up on the wrong things. Like, I mean, the Lou Elizondo stuff is proof of that alone. Like, people still don't think that he is who he is, and they get hung up on it. And it's like a waste of time when we could be putting our brains and heads together for a better purpose. Like, there's not much more proof that can be given.
No, I think he's proven enough. To me, when Senator Reid, the late Senator Reid, Harry Reid,
I miss him.
attested to that, right? Yeah, he seemed like an interesting guy. When he wrote that letter, that memo, whatever you'd like to call it, that declared that Lou is who he says he was, like, that was enough for me. Like, that's it. That was like, I'm like, and to be honest with you, I didn't question it too much. I just kept my ears peeled, and or my eyes peeled and my ears open, I should say. But I was like, I don't see anything. I'm like, okay, cool, all right, he's counterintelligence, blah blah blah. But people have to understand, counterintelligence doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you're a trained liar. Counterintelligence means that your intelligence working counter to the enemy. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily some spook who's out to infiltrate the UFO community and tear things apart. It doesn't have to be looked at like that.
Yeah. Did you see this? This Diane Pasulka.
Oh boy, here we go. Well, before we get into that, because I definitely got some thoughts. I saw Taylor, you got your hand up, you popped up. What's up, man? What's going on?
Oh, I just wanted to say, hey, first time in your space, and and what you were talking about, Thomas, about as far as people take it, just seeing something on the internet, some, like, especially UFO Twitter now. It's funny, we have our own, like, category. It used to all be like, what was it, stock and finance stuff, and now there's like a UFO section. I love that. Right. But one thing that I think gets it all out of balance is there are too many conspiracy theorists, and it's like, who cares about the conspiracy anymore? There was one. Now what? You just reminded me of that point. I can't remember who said that.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's becoming more of a battle every day between those that those that have been here for a while and those newcomers that are that still think that the conspiracy is that large.
Is all that matters, right?
All that matters. That's all that's there. We need to expose that. It's like, no, we've already gotten over that. We know that there's a cover up. We know that the government has tried to hide this. That's old news. This topic has come so far now, and we need to start focusing on tipping that last domino, rather than getting hung up on the first one that fell years ago.
I think one of the things too that I've thought of, and when I've talked with people, like, really in depth about underlined kind of themes that go on. One of the things that really, to me, I'm sort of realizing is it's competition over collaboration with a lot of this stuff, and I feel like there's a certain amount of credit that people want to get by being involved, and that in itself is sort of preventing a lot more of this collaboration and more of a competitive nature between these people. And you mentioned Pasulka and, like, Avi Loeb, and, like, it would be great if they were working together, but for some reason, there's these rifts that happen between even larger figures and all the way down to the smaller people, when it would be so much more beneficial for them to work together. But I don't know, it just is something that's just underlined. I don't know if it's personally or if it's just the overall sort of thing that's happening.
I think it's the latter, personally. I think it's a combination of pride and people coming out and being like, they want to feel like a rock star, right? They want to be out in front. They want to be that guy, right? They want the attention, they want the fame because they know the types of things that come with that. Whereas us, at least the way I feel about myself and about you guys, we've all come together because we're trying to find answers to the bigger questions that we've had since we were, toddlers, since we, we've been able to start thinking for ourselves. And by creating content, you're entertaining people, and that's fine. There's nothing, and compensating people and donating and all that, that's fine because as long as you're giving back to the community the best that you can, then in my opinion, you deserve that. Um, but we're also informing. We're trying to encourage people to think critically, trying to get them to, kind of think outside of the box and examine evidence maybe from a different perspective than they're used to. And I feel like that leads to good places where people are able to they become detectives, but we become a group of detectives. So it's like one hive mind working together for a common goal, and that's when real good things start to happen. So when somebody kind of goes off the rails a little bit and decide, I'm not going to say names, but we can think of a couple people related to this subject that were doing good work and then kind of went to the dark side. I get it. It's tempting. But if some people could kind of put their egos aside, I really feel like the progress would just explode exponentially, probably overnight. It would be tremendous. But we're getting there. There's a lot more collaboration going on, as we've all seen. A lot more people coming together. A lot more people actually thinking like, hey, there really is something to this, and more people are providing their anecdotal experiences now too because they're less afraid to speak about it, which is huge, and that obviously leads to better things.
Do you think Gary Nolan knows more than he lets on?
Absolutely.
I have this like weird feeling that he knows way a lot more than he gives up.
I think and this is just my personal opinion, I'm sure some of you have heard the core secrets. I think he's aware of some hints as to what those are, but I believe he has direct knowledge of certain things, and that's why he kind of speaks the way he does, because he probably personally believes that there's a process to this, and he's not going to just like tip the bucket over immediately. He's kind of going with the flow to play it safe.
I think, to me, I think Gary Nolan has received information and he probably doesn't know how to confirm it because he's so scientifically grounded. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, he probably has heard a lot. Like, even with the stuff of how he first got involved in the UFO field, of how weird the story was, and the information that he probably got. But I think a lot of his stuff is like focused on the research into the brain, and that I don't think he has information on that he's not revealing, because that's really based in science. And I think other scientists are still looking at that as well. He's
been very public about that. And it's very, if anyone listening tonight is unaware of that, I would highly recommend looking into the studies that Gary Nolan is doing, because it's still going on, specifically comparing the brains of experiencers and non-experiencers, and the evidence that they're finding to show that there is a clear distinction between the two, as startling as that may seem, but it's there. It's obvious.
Yeah, I wonder if imagine you are Gary Nolan, right? And someone from a government agency brought you materials that you had never not only seen, but you couldn't even come up with on your own, or hadn't thought about that it even possibly existed. Would you tell people?
It depends. It depends on what they tell me to do with that material and information. There's a lot of money that goes into that man's pocket, too. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Let me clarify, but for all we know, there's a conversation that's already been had where it's like, listen, Gary, we're going to get this out to the public. We're going to lay out our plan. Here's our plan. And in order for that plan to work, we need you to do A, B, and C. And he may have found those plans to line up with his moral compass, and he decided to execute those plans.
I see him too, and I see a couple hands up, man. We'll get around. I see him, and he said this at the Inquirer Anomalous where he was speaking. He's like the person who's in the middle of the UFO community and the scientific community.
Yeah.
And he can like push the bubble outward towards the scientific community. So even if he knew stuff, I think he would try and find a scientific way or a way to like push it to the scientific community so that he can be like, okay, this is real, guys. Like, here's a little bit of what's really happening. Like, go at it now.
Right.
A couple hands up. Salvador jumped up. What's up, dude? What's going on?
Hey, what's up, man? I think I probably waited.
You're a little low. If you could turn it up.
Yeah, your volume is very, very low.
Okay. What about now?
No,
Still pretty low.
Oh, man, every time. Well, are you guys at least able to hear me?
I'm gonna have to end up blocking this kid.
Not enough to we can only hear some. Like, I'm gonna have to like focus on you like incredibly hard, and it's not gonna show up on the recording that we're doing here.
Okay, I'm gonna log out.
Okay. Yeah, technical problems always, right?
No, Salvador is my boy, man. That
Gotcha.
sucks. I really want to hear his thoughts on this. You know, I think he'll be able to figure it out.
If your phone is in a case, because I know most of you, if not all of you, are on mobile, don't forget that sometimes your case can get in the way of the microphone when you least expect it, even if you think it's not. So if your phone's in a case, I would definitely recommend taking it out, and it may very well help you.
We'll shoot over to Taylor, and then maybe Salvador can jump back up when he's good. What's up, man?
Am I coming through clearly?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm just going to pose this real talk question really quick. Okay. If you're Gary and someone brings you a bunch of clearly not from here technology and they say, but you have to keep it a secret. I mean, in order to study said technology, I would be happy to keep it a secret. I'm like, yeah, I'll keep it all a secret. Do you have more? So
No, you're right. That's a good point.
From his perspective, it's like, okay, yeah, I have a job to do. Maybe I have to get this out, but I also get to play with it first.
Right, this is like the Bob Lazar story. If you're aware of the fact that he's even said if he could go back and do it again, that he would have kept his mouth shut.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a really good point too, which I didn't think about before. But I mean, I said it many times. I mean, we're gonna have to meet the government halfway on this. Like, we're going to have to. It's not something we can avoid. We're going to have to work with them in order to advance the topic. So,
and one way of doing that is just being empathic and saying, "Look, I get it. They brought you some stuff while you were at work one day. You wanted to play with it. I would have wanted to too, but now that we know, let's hear it, you know, spill it. But you have to do this as consciousness allows, especially.
And that's what I meant earlier. Like, do these congressional hearings actually advance us or no? Or is it more like the work that Gary's doing? And I think it's more like the work that Gary's doing.
I think it's more like the work that Gary's doing, yeah. But we're talking about, I say but, however, is what I meant to say, and that the elder crowd that is just coming around to this probably does need something as slow as hearings. And like I said, like as fast as our human consciousness will allow, I think is as fast as, you know, disclosure is happening already.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting correlation, consciousness and disclosure hand in hand. That's a really interesting anecdote.
It's just crazy to me to think. It's like if you poll 100 people, like 100 people randomly off the streets, I would say 90 of them would agree that they not just believe, but they know that we're not alone in the universe.
But all 90 of them would go into shock immediately if the mothership landed in front of them the second they were posed that question.
Honestly, like how many of if you walked outside tomorrow, even with your beliefs, maybe you've had experiences like I have, it's still kind of like, okay, that's not my mailbox. That's that's insane. You know, like I'm
It's
still
so
gonna freeze.
Shocking.
Yeah,
I would
of
want to
course.
see the data on the difference between, do you think alien life is out there, and do you think alien life is interacting with us?
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a distinct difference in the percentages there, no question.
But get to Salvador. I just want to say yes. I believe alien life is interacting with us.
Agreed.
I would agree. See? Look at
Yeah,
that.
I agree as well. Can you guys hear me now?
Absolutely. What's up,
Hey,
Salvador?
Hell yeah.
Dang. Okay, I did take the case off, and apparently it helps.
There we go.
So I appreciate that. Man, I feel like I kind of joined the conversation a little bit too late. I think you guys were talking about kind of like the spaces and sort of the environment that is sort of fostered on Twitter. And I swear to God, Astral, like all of your spaces are always phenomenal. The way you manage it, it's great. I'm never disappointed with your space, even if it doesn't have anything to do with remote viewing. I think there's a lot to learn about that, and I think um, mental health is like a big issue in this community, and I guess I didn't realize it um, for a few months, really. But now that I'm here and I'm kind of able to see it, I'm seeing that it's an issue, and there's like really prominent individuals who see UFO Twitter as like scum. The comments that I've seen is pretty horrible. Like I think Tyler Henry was like, oh, UFO Twitter is super toxic and all this stuff, and I'm like, but I'm UFO Twitter. I'm part of it. And so there's some denial there, I think. But in order to move it forward, I think having an organized space, having an easily manageable space, someone who's responsible and someone who's looking ahead. I don't think we're doing that enough. And to kind of tie it into what you guys were talking about recently is I think uh, once all this information comes out, like officially, uh, we're going to be dealing with a lot of people in somewhat of a panic, right? They're not going to understand how to digest this information, and there's reactions are going to vary, and it'll be a whole spectrum of reactions. But what I do believe, and it's something that I've noticed, is you know, all of us here in all these spaces, these and the other ones that are going out right now, the one thing that we aren't scared of is questioning. We're not afraid of questioning the idea of extraterrestrials, even the idea that maybe there aren't any extraterrestrials, but maybe it's coordinated by some kind of quantum computing AI.
Mm.
So I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up being the leaders, and I say we as just as community, right? Some people might have more influence than others, but I think we're going to end up being the leaders of digesting this information and kind of allowing people to digest it in small bits, because we've already done it, and we can provide them with the information and the way to kind of move forward in the new world that's going to exist once this information is released.
That's a fantastic point, and I'll say to that, because I mention this pretty often. The one group of people that's really going to have an advantage over everybody else are the experiencers. They're going to be the ones that are not only going to be able to handle it, but they're going to be able to help other people along who genuinely are having a tough time adjusting. The people who are maybe frightened, and it's okay, and no one should look down on those people or make fun of them or anything, because I can tell you, one of my cousins who I'm very, very close with, she's like a sister to me because I only have one brother, so she's like a sister by extension. She loves what I do. She supports it. She sees my channel growing and everything. But sometimes she's just like, I need you to not talk about aliens in front of me. Like sometimes she just gets a little worked up over it. So those are going to be the people that we got to lend a hand to. We're like, look, we're all in this together, and we're all going to be stepping through this doorway at the same time. And don't be afraid, because you're not alone. You know, that's the easiest way not to be afraid, is to know that you have people there with you.
Yeah, I spoke to in the conversation I had with John Yost, he had warned about people that, like, he'd warned about basically the people that have shit on us, you know, for being a believer.
Right.
But after disclosure happens, around and saying that they believed it the whole time, you know, that they've been in contact the whole time.
Yeah.
And to watch out for those kind of folks, because he sees a lot of it. And, you know, from an experiencer perspective, you know, imagine having that level of confirmation, right? You have it, and you know, people are telling you it's not real, it doesn't exist, this is all some sort of, you know, not Russian tech or Chinese tech, and they're just, you know, completely dismissive of the fact that, of your experience and what you've tried to tell people, like, hey, listen, I had this experience, and, you know, I'm pretty sure there's some sort of non-human intelligence visiting Earth and interacting with us, and, you know, just kind of getting made fun of and laughed at. It's not a good feeling.
No, not at all. And it's not fair, because it then, in certain cases, if not most, makes that person wonder if they're going crazy.
Yeah.
Even though they and 5 other people saw it. So it's like, if you have multiple witnesses with you, that should be the first indication that, no, you're not having a group hallucination, because science will tell you group hallucinations, they're not a thing. Not, you know, a group hallucination, like, everyone's going to see something different.
Yeah, we've tried it. Don't worry. I wish it was real, but it wasn't.
I think somebody new has their hand up.
JJ, hey, what's up?
Hi, Astro. Hi, everyone. You know, like, if disclosure happens, you know, they haven't controlled the narrative. There's so much on the internet, you know, that people are going to, I was just talking about this, they're going to get multiple ideas about what the phenomenon is, or, you know, they'll see abductions, they'll see the government's hiding this story, that story. Like, I don't know. I think that they might as well just pull the Band-Aid off at this point, if it's true, and if we have craft, and if we have proof that they're going slow, I guess, but, like, they're treating everyone like they're children.
Well, that's because that's the way they see it. They don't see it as they don't see scientists, and they don't see the engineers of the civilian world. They see what's happening on UFO Twitter, right? They see how things get handled there, and they probably don't look at us as adults.
One word that I've seen a lot, and I'd like to get everybody's thoughts on this. Recently, I'm not a big fan of this and this sort of narrative, but manipulation, like, that's sort of unbeknownst to us. Like, we're all being manipulated or influenced in some way or fashion. So I wanted to know, you know, what people's thoughts about that. JJ, go ahead.
Like, what do you mean manipulated? Manipulated by the news? Manipulated by...
Well, I think that it could be taken in a lot of ways, but for example, Peter Levenda recently started, like, a Substack or something. So he started writing publicly for a blog. You know, it's basically a blog. And he referenced, and this is one thing that
Can anyone else not hear?
No.
All I can hear is Tom typing away.
You don't know that.
Okay, so Taylor, Astral can't. Astral Taylor can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear him, but I guess he can't hear me.
Yeah, I can hear him as well.
Thomas, can you hear me? Shit.
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, cool. So Taylor, somebody tell Taylor to jump off and then back on.
Yeah, that'll probably get him straight.
Taylor, you need to go to listener, and then they'll put you back up to speaker.
Happens all the time.
But I think with manipulation, in terms of what's going on, I think to me there's 2 facets of it that you're looking at, and that's the actual non-human intelligence manipulation of like it's a control system and they've sort of been manipulating us throughout the years. But I also think about it on an individual level. Like, are our decisions, like, is it down to the level? Because I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but I don't ever really feel like my life in the direction that it's gone has been manipulated by an outside force. But again, it's hard to think about that at that level that it's happening. And then I feel like there's public manipulation of it going on, where you hear these people, and I have respect for Tom DeLonge and Peter Levenda, but you hear them talk about it as if like everything is one alien and one thing, and it's all nefarious in what they're doing, and they're doing shit like it's all fucking evil in the end. And I just can't get on board with that because of the experiencers.
Is it just Tom DeLonge gone off the fucking rails?
I wouldn't say that. He's going down some deep esoteric rabbit holes that you're going to run into some things that are going to kind of make you wonder about the positive and negative sides of all of this. But no, I wouldn't say off the rails. He's digging deep, though. That I will say.
I mean, I don't know. I was listening to him talk the other day, saying how he was saying that all of this is because of him, and I mean, it just sounded very, very, very selfish and egotistic.
Well, one thing that I tie it back to a lot of the times is have they been involved with the Department of Defense or the intelligence community at all? The majority of the people who come out with this narrative of like they're all bad aliens and they're all have worked or have been in communication with the intelligence community, and it almost feels like that's what they're supposed to think. Like they're supposed to be on the defensive. They're supposed to have that sort of mentality. But then when you look at the experiencers of the people who are actually having these experiences with non-human intelligence, there's a totally opposite narrative that's taking place for the most part.
Yeah, that's true. There's no question about that.
Salvador, what up, man?
So I think like that idea is sort of the idea of like if you're a hammer, you see everything as a nail, right? Like perhaps with the phenomenon, depending on your approach to life, then that might influence your approach or your opinion to the phenomenon itself, or even how it presents itself to you, right? If you see me as an enemy, I'm going to be perceived as an enemy, and there's really nothing I can do to sort of sway you from that opinion, because everything that I do is going to seem like I'm manipulating you to believe that thing. And this is so kind of scaling back to the idea of manipulation. When you think about the phenomenon in general,
Your volume dropped again.
Say it again.
Your volume's dropping.
Oh, okay.
It sounded better, so keep going.
Yep. So, just to kind of scale back, though, to like overall manipulation when it comes to I'm going to call it the phenomenon, because to be honest, I know that a lot of us or some of us believe that it's UFOs, it's aliens, it's Bigfoot, it's all these things. I'm not 100% sure. I'm wondering if it's something else that is presenting itself to us in like sort of a spiritual way for us to be able to digest it. So I've had an experience when I was younger, but sometimes I question it, and I think when it comes to all of this, it's so hard not to do that, and that's it's hard not to dig deep, and so I think we all kind of have to figure it out there, and I think talking about it will kind of a lot like we'll figure it out together in a way. And then when it comes to Tom DeLonge, I don't think everything is because of him, right? But and I don't know if it's it was strategic partnership with whoever it is that he was talking to for years. But obviously, part of the reason why Lou Elizondo and some other folks, sort of came out of the woodwork was because of their partnership with To the Stars Academy. So I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm not giving him anything more than what he deserves. What I will say is that dude, he played a huge role, I think. I mean, he's probably one of the biggest celebrities up to this point, who was extremely vocal about it, and kind of tied other celebrities and politicians into at least building a momentum towards disclosure. So, I think we should definitely give him what he deserves, like the props. Did he, is he the only reason? Like, is he the linchpin for it all? Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say looking from the outside.
That's very well said. The only thing I won't say too much about that, other than I know at times Tom DeLonge does come off like there's some ego involved there, but I do appreciate his efforts. I feel like he took a route that maybe came off as a little, grifty to some people, but I feel like at this point I get what he was trying to do and is still trying to do. And in the least, his interviews are very interesting. He is a wealth of knowledge as far as the esoteric side of this and some of the more spiritual information that can be tied to the phenomenon. And I still say I would encourage everyone to at least, listen to him kind of go into those deep dives. There's really fascinating information there, regardless of how you feel about him or, the things that he may say and do. He has played a role in where we are now, but he is just a piece of it. Is he, the main reason? I don't think so. But he did have a part in it that can't really be denied regardless.
Yeah, I feel like he was the organizer of, if there was anybody that got together, Elizondo, Mellon, Leslie Keane, all those that got that 2017, it was sort of him. Not to say that he was dictating the whole thing, but he sort of organized it so that everybody could probably get in the same room. And he was like, oh shit, I just got everybody in the same room. Let me listen in and hear some shit. And so, like, I feel like that was more of what it is. But one of the things I wanted to mention too, I posted up top in the nest here a couple of things that I think people in the space should check out. One is the latest episode that you had, Ty, with John Yost. I wasn't able to check that out yet, but I definitely would recommend everybody taking a listen to that. And I'm gonna check it out coming up. And then another one I wanted to shout out to Thomas was your MIB video, dude, which was extremely good, well put together. If you wanted to maybe talk about that and maybe what you've received or anything, some feedback that you got from it.
Thanks, man. That's like really, really amazing to hear. I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. It was a crazy project. I really went deep. Had no idea it was gonna be 30 minutes, but I'm like, you know what? I just can't leave this, and this out, so I went for it. The feedback has been tremendous because I've been trying to figure out like what to make my videos look like consistently, kind of have ingredients and a formula that I can follow every time to try to speed up the process, get more content out for people to watch. And aside from like a comment or two here and there that were just kind of like off the cuff, like the music was blah, just stuff like that was just like personal taste. I've been getting DMs, emails, comments, you name it. I mean, it did more views in 11 hours than my previous video had done in a month. And I'm like, oh my God, like I woke up to that, and it's been very humbling. And I'm really grateful for the fact that people were excited for it and took the time to watch it. And I'll also say too, just in regards to Ty's interview with John Yost, I watched that man's documentary a few months ago, and then found out that we were going to be having him as a guest. I unfortunately was not able to make it because I had work. I would definitely recommend everyone go listen to that. John seems like he's a really, really down to earth, intelligent, and just kind of like a sweet, warm guy. And I think Ty did an excellent job having a conversation with him. So that's 2 videos for you guys to watch and enjoy. Thank you, Astral, though. Your compliment means a lot, man, for real.
Yeah, I John Yost is someone I didn't really know too much about, and then he sent me his movie, and I was blown away. So I know he's working on his second film now, or it's coming soon, which will have the same. I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything, but it's got a similar title, but it's like the next installment, and he's working on a trilogy of those kind of films. So his story is just absolutely mind-boggling, and it's the series of events that unfolded that led him back down the path of, you know, what happened to him at 7 years old. It's remarkable, and you know, Whitley Strieber endorses it or endorses him. So I mean, when Whitley's in something, I always take it a little bit more seriously.
I second that. I told you, Ty, I've read Communion in every stage of my life, basically. I first read it when I was like 10 or 11, and then I read it a couple years later, and that's one of those books that just, you get something out of it differently every time you age. It's fascinating. I believe his story. I believe it's, in my opinion, the best account of an abduction that I've ever heard. And hopefully one day we'll get a chance to speak to Whitley and kind of hear it out of his own mouth. But
Have you read his latest book?
not yet. I do have it in my quote unquote library, even though it's all digital. But I do have it.
I actually haven't read Communion.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that
no,
one will really because I know how you are with abduction stories, and it's kind of like hit or miss with you. I told you the other day, Ty, once you read Communion, there's no going back. That's it. That's it, man. I'm like, I kid you not. You read Communion,
well, yeah.
that is it.
And I'm not like, the thing about abductions for me is like, I'm not even afraid to say it. It scares the shit out of me.
Right. It is scary.
If that's real, like if that's legitimately happening, then I mean, does disclosure ever happen? Could you, as a government, could you ever fully admit that you can't protect the citizens that you're sworn to? Like, I just don't know. Like, and abductions are like, there's so many. I've talked to many experiences at this point. You know, Mario Woods, just did John Yost, and so many more. That and their story is so remarkably similar that
Right.
you know it makes sense to me, but it scares me a little bit. So maybe I don't want to believe it, and
It's
that's
normal.
what.
It's how my mom is, how my cousin is.
Which I'm not afraid to say. You know, I mean, I'll straight up say it to anybody. I think I'm more afraid of it being real than I am skeptical of it's happening.
I think
As your consciousness allows.
Right.
As your consciousness allows. That's right.
Because the last thing I want to do is wake up in the middle of the night with a creature at the end of my bed, like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like, that's what the fuck? No, I don't want that. I'm good.
Want some milk and cookies? Like, oh, yeah, it's a little terrifying.
I go back and forth with abductions a lot. I mean, I think a lot of the accounts are very extremely credible. But I also look at the method in which the information was obtained. And there's questionable, if you look at, and even Tom DeLonge posts about this. He posted like something that was actually pretty inaccurate of what it was, but he was trying to draw attention to John Mack and the abduction experience. And he mentioned John Mack and that the regressive hypnotic therapy that he used was used hundreds of thousands of times. And he referenced that, which is what is strange about that is if it was used hundreds of thousands of times, then why is John Mack the only one that was really focusing on the abduction experience? I feel like there would be other people that if there was going on that much, that would be reporting the abduction experiences. And so even with the process of it itself, of when these people were going through, and I'm not talking about in general of everybody who had an abduction experience. I'm talking about ones that were officially like recorded and put into like scientific research into this abduction. And so when you look at it, there's really only about 400 to 500 people, and there was about 3 researchers that actually submitted and researched it and scientifically reported their stuff to journals. And so I think also with Communion, a lot of, again, I'm sort of getting this counterculture thought, but with Communion, I think one of the interesting things is that One, the cover of Communion, I think, was very influential. If the cover of Communion, the book cover, was different, because that was the first time that people saw the alien and the big eyes and the gray sort of being, and you know, that iconic cover. But I think what was interesting to me is the amount of stories that he got back, the amount of letters that he got. I don't even think he's gone through all of them, Strieber, of the amount of people that wrote him after the fact of it. And so I think that's another thing of like, if there were hundreds of thousands, he makes it seem like there was like, you know, like almost 100,000 people writing him. That's just like so prevalent within our society that it's really happening. It's tough to kind of fathom that taking place.
I'll say this, that we also have to keep in mind that if abductions really are taking place, which I lean in that direction, we are dealing potentially with an intelligence maybe beyond our imagination, with capabilities where they could potentially abduct a human being, put them back, and then leave trace evidence in such a way that when we go and look at that situation and study the case, that we don't come up with the conclusion that they were taken. Like, you got to think, if they are capable of getting here from wherever they're coming from and have the kind of technology we think they may have, they're playing 6D, 7D chess. They're 30 moves ahead of us, and if they don't want us to realize it's happening, I feel like it's well within their capabilities that they could fool us into thinking that it's a hallucination or something of that sort.
But okay, here's the question though. Do you think it's like, do you think there's different levels of that? Do you think there's beings that have the capability to manipulate our reality so we have nothing going on, and then there's maybe a civilization who's doing this for the first time and they're like, oh shit, we can fuck this up? And
I think it's a great theory. No, that's exactly what I think is going on too. I don't think we're just being abducted by like one species or being visited by one species, or that might not even be the word, but like intelligences. And the reason that I think that is really simple. I read Jacques Vallée. But like, there's physical evidence that is bizarre, and I'll just give one example. There are confirmed medical cases of abductees who had scar tissue that formed in under 24 hours, which is biologically impossible in natural situations, and that's just one. There's, you know, embryos disappearing. I mean, it goes on and on and on. To me, there's too much evidence, and it would win in court. It's just, I know it's hard to accept. It's scary. It's like, am I going to be taken? Don't think that way, because if you're someone that's, you know, at least in your 20s or 30s at this point, like, they would have already been doing it by now. They usually, it seems that they start in early childhood and then they leave you alone when you're elderly. But there is ample physical evidence out there, and it points in that direction. I mean, I don't know, you know, the hybridization thing. It's like, I'm not sure. You know, I'm going to be doing videos on all of this, but I'm going to present what I've found over the years. And to me, after studying this for over 25 years, I've come to not a conclusion, but I'll say I strongly lean in the direction of some intelligence has come down to Earth and has picked humans up. And I leave it at that. I don't want to say that they're evil or anything like, because I don't know. They might be trying to save their own species for all I know. It's hard to say, but I do believe there's enough evidence to suggest that it is not just some sort of illusion of the mind. And there's even good evidence to suggest that whoever was doing this to these people was even attempting to obfuscate their ability to remember it, screen memories and such. There's a lot there. There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I directly spoke to John about it, and saying, I asked him about what he thinks about people that say he's not telling the truth, and that if anything, it's more of a coping mechanism for some sort of abuse that he had in his childhood. And he agrees that part of it was his mind kind of changing the story. So he agrees that it's partly due to that, but after digging in deeper and having that second experience in adulthood, it changed it. It led him down the path of rediscovering what actually happened to him when he was 7. It wasn't actually Ultraman. His mind just did that to him to better handle it. It's kind of like what happens to trauma victims.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
So it's partly so like Zen again, like if you're abducted by an alien and you say it's a gray or Ultraman, right? Like your mind is has changed some sort of detail to protect you.
Right, exactly. And the evidence would lead you to believe that your mind was trying to change it away from aliens. But it's like these people, the further they try to get away from the alien narrative, the closer they find themselves to it. So it's like no matter what they do, it's still going to go back to that, and that says a lot.
Right. And like I said, these are the people that we need to have testifying to Arrow. Like I love the military pilots, don't get me wrong.
Very much so.
Like for real, don't get me wrong. I love Commander Fravor, those guys, Ryan Graves. What they're doing is so important. But we can't forget about the people like Whitley Strieber who have had these remarkable experiences that we definitely need to look we definitely need to look further into it because something's happening.
No question.
Buddy, what's up, man? Alien Protocol, so you jumped up.
What's up, man?
Love you guys. Love you guys. I think just had the hand up first, so I don't want to cut just off. Love you guys. Look at all these geniuses.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I think that we are best served when we are the best skeptics about what we believe in. And I think, with all of phenomena, multi-phenomenal locations, UFOs, and everything, I think there needs to be a whole class of people that aren't involved. And these are sociologists, psychologists, neurologists, and anthropologists, and these other people who could bring in important facts. Ultimately, this is a lot of different things. We need to find out the right percentages. We want to know the right percentages of what is really physically happening, what is, deeply believed to be happening because of sleep, quirks, or other things. That is valuable data that, it's the black sheep of our family. But it's important and it's deeply tied into it. Trauma is deeply tied into it. Trauma before, during, or afterwards, initiated by or initiated. So I just think that's an important side to add to all this.
Thanks, buddy. Go ahead, JJ.
I don't know. I'm very confused by all of this. Like, part of me thinks it's a control system. Part of me thinks it's actually real. Another part of me says, you know what? Like, it really doesn't matter. Because I just look at it. Sorry, my dog is barking. I can't talk.
Because you have to go to work the next morning, right? Everybody still got to do the shit that they got to do.
I see a bigger picture. I see more of it really doesn't matter in the end whether they're aliens or not, or humans. It's all part of the experience. Like, why am I not being abducted, or why haven't I seen a craft, kind of thing. Like, maybe I'm not meant to. Maybe we're all part of one, and you're supposed to see a craft because that will kind of help you on your journey. I don't know. I think
honestly, when people ask that, the first question I ask is, have you done a CE5? Have you physically gone out and then done star watching? Do you know what a CE5 is?
Yeah, I know what a CE5 is.
Have you physically gone out for a CE5?
Actually, I did it one night.
Okay.
I did it one night, and I've told this story a few times. Sorry, I was having a glass of wine watching Stephen Greer on YouTube. Sorry about this. And instead of a ship, there was like a meteor over my area. So I thought maybe it's not a good idea.
The reason that I asked that right off of the bat of people that are familiar with that is that, to me, there's a sort of synergy that happens with you exploring it. And I feel like when people sit back and they're like, well, why isn't this happening to me? And I'm like, well, are you actively seeking it?
It's also kind of like if you build a nest for the right type of bird, it will come and roost there. So it's also part about being, I think, to a certain degree as well. As unbelievable as it sounds, I think that's a part of this phenomena.
That's a solid analogy.
But that's my point. Like, maybe there's a purpose for these people to see it, or maybe there's a purpose for this person to be abducted, you know?
Yeah, there's also people who talk about like almost like an agreement that happens before, like almost like before they're born, they make an agreement that this is going to take place, which I've always found interesting in that. Taylor, what's up, man? So you got your hand?
Oh man, you just went down like a really deep rabbit hole there. Yeah, I was like, I mean, I was just gonna share something quick about like thought and telepathy, like we were talking about earlier today. And you opened up Pandora's box for me right there, or would have if I was gonna take that long. Now, I was thinking about. It may sound off topic now, but I know it came up earlier about this 0-point thought direction, like I was talking about in my message to you today, Astral.
Yeah, just basically like telepathy, if in quantum entanglement, and I think that we have the capability to experience psi right now, but I think we're sort of third party. And like in terms of ESP and stuff that you're talking about, psychic phenomenon, a lot of it is spontaneous and it's realized after the fact. But people talk about the capability that humans may have to be able to communicate telepathically. And then people who communicate with non-human intelligence say that that's how the communication is with telepathically. We're just not at a point where we're actually able to functionally do that. Like
Sure.
we would be doing that on TV and be testing it and be showing it off to everybody.
Yeah, totally doing thought to thought. But I have, like, for the past 11 years, I've done over 30,000 psychic readings, and like. I realized, like, at some point that if there's a guy like me that can do what I can do in my job, and then there are like a bunch of advanced other races, out there in the multiverse, let's say, and quantum entanglement applies in such a way as like, because I know when I do a reading, it's kind of like I embody the person. I can see with their eyes. I know their thought. It's like, and then that's the place I help them from, And it hit me like there's got to be guys on other planets. If there are advanced, races like that are like humans out there somewhere, and it, I don't know, like as far as I know, because I've been a medium for the past 11 years too. So I speak to the dead with great accuracy. And when it occurred to me that all of these advanced civilizations could exist on other planets, I started trying to get in contact with like guys like me, like psychics, guys that do telepathy for a living and stuff or whatever. Anyway, I've never really shared this story. It just, I have on good authority that like we are on time for disclosure. And like, there's just really nothing to fear. And it's like, we don't hear that enough in the media, and especially from people that, channel ancient societies. And I know it's crazy, but I love what I do.
What? You know who would be extremely interested in what you're talking about right now is Bob Bigelow. Bob Bigelow would be the person that's willing to pay for that group to do their channeling and mediumship and then say what the information that they're getting from the quote unquote the other side, the multiverse, whatever. And I've always thought about if there were other planets around or there's other civilizations that aren't able to travel physically here, the most logical way to me would be to have these out of body experiences and psychic experiences and then communicate, through that, method. I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole of that, but yeah, dude, I mean, what you're talking about, that's
dude,
what I'm passionate about. But that's
me.
Honestly what I'm passionate about. I mean, all that psychic research, parapsychology stuff of like deep mind stuff. And I think what I'm interested in is like, how do we bring the quantum and all of this stuff that's, a lot of the theoretical stuff, but there's been a lot of telepathy. You talk about telepathy, but to me, telepathy has been like, it's past the threshold of of it taking place. Like, to me, it's been proven. Now it's on the side of the skeptics or the people that are trying to disprove it to provide evidence contrary to the fact. So there's stuff like precognition, telepathy, remote viewing, that if you're looking at the data that has been submitted to scientifically recognized journals, the effect is taking place scientifically. There's a scientific effect taking place. And I think that like when what frustrates me right now is when people say woo, and then they include that, like that's separate from the woo. ESP, telepathy, like that's already proven. The shit is taking place. We have the capability, but what we don't have is somebody that can do it on cue and like can show up and be like, I'm reading people's minds and like I can communicate. Like, we're not on that level yet. And I think that's the disconnect that we have.
Yeah, yet. But it's like
we don't have. We need Buddy. We need
10%.
Buddy to step up. Buddy,
right? We're only using 10% of our potential by the time we die so far. So it's like, if we could, in order to like advance a society, wouldn't we want to use all of our human potential?
But how would we? I mean, we've got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And like, who better to know than like some advanced species?
Well, I don't want to. I think Just goes before me, and I'm about to. I'm loading up the cannon here.
Go ahead, JD.
Oh, I just wanted to speak about Taylor. I forget what was the point you made before. You said something, and now my brain's gone. I just want to ask him what he said, that we're on time for.
Oh yeah, like that's a good question. Like, how did you get that information, or what else can you tell us about that? We're on time.
Oh yeah, just like it's sort of this. There was a point in the past where like human evolution could have gone awry, but that point is past and it doesn't. If that makes sense.
No.
It's like we win, we did it, yay! We get the happy ending. Does that make sense? And it's like there's nothing you could do to stop the happy ending now. It's like we passed that point in the past where anything could have gone so horrible that we lost the species or something, and now we're like, yay, we made it. But it's not for a long time.
Okay, I have another question though. Like, a lot of people are talking about fifth dimension. Like, I hear that a lot. Sorry. And I'm just wondering if that's the same info you're getting. Like, if you think that is all, like, part of it.
I think seeing is believing. And it's like, I've never seen the fifth dimension. I mean, we're in 4 right now. Let's just say height, depth, width, and time. Time's a dimension. If you're talking about like the spirit world, yeah, I mean, I believe in that, if that's the fifth dimension. But I'm talking about like, I mean, if this has happened over and over and over again on different planets and different parts of this universe, like, they should be pretty adept at like, okay, we need y'all's help. What now? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what they said was, oh, nothing to fear. And that was that. And just like the sense I got was like, oh yeah, no, you guys are already saved. Like you made it. Yay. You just won't see it for like 100 years.
Well, I fear humans more than I fear aliens.
Say that one more time.
No, I said I fear humans more than aliens, but I was watching an NDE the other night, and the guy was looking at his past lives, and he saw like lives that were on other planets, and just like various lives, and it was kind of appropriate, like I kind of think like this is all just some simulation, and we're just going through it. I don't know, you could look at it that way. And whether it's aliens, whether it's humans, whether it's discovering America, whatever, it's just part of the simulation to discover itself.
That's pretty interesting. You could even look at it like this, and it's really simple. We only know what we know from our own perspective. Science can say whatever it wants. Or excuse me, science can say whatever it wants, but at the end of the day, the human perspective is limited. Just the simple fact that we can only see a limited portion of the visible light spectrum should tell you everything you need to know about what we can and can't learn. I can even say that a few years ago, in a very ritualistic process and safe, in a safe environment and done for a spiritual reason, I ingested DMT. And there are things that I know occurred that I was not able to bring back with me 100%, but I know I saw colors that quote unquote don't exist, but they do. It's just that our eyes are not designed to see them. And I had 360-degree vision. I saw geometric shapes that were clearly not three-dimensional. They were much more than that. So the way I look at all of that is that our brains, right? I'm sure you've all heard this before. Your brain, I believe the brain is a receiver of consciousness. So consciousness exists in some higher dimension other than 3D. And it's getting projected down into our brains, and our brains act as filters for that information, and it filters it in such a way to make it suitable for biological life to operate and function properly. And it's consciousness non-locality, meaning that predicting the future or anything of that sort, ESP, what have you, it's such a simple explanation as to how that would all work. And if those things are true, I mean, think about all the doors that open up as a result of that. This is why I firmly, firmly believe in what Astral was speaking about, ESP, remote viewing, etc. Those have already been proven. And does it function perfectly every time? No, because they're like muscles that we have that, they're like atrophied. They need to be worked out. They need to be exercised. Sorry, I probably went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but let's see. Alien Protocols, what's up?
No, you were right on cue. I disagree wildly with just some phraseology from Astro from before about whether this stuff exists and on what level it exists and whether it's, I know it's just like semantics or something. Maybe I just misinterpreted it or something, but I know that most of us in this room probably know the reality of non-local data gathering in an extraordinary way. And it can happen in isolated circumstances at an incredibly high fidelity with types of data that you wouldn't even suspect are garnerable. And I do agree completely that it's about human potential. I think some of you are just like on point in your discussion so far about some of these core issues. And it's bizarre to me. I look at it this way. Phenomena has always represented emerging new science. 200 years ago, there's all this weird stuff. And, people finally agreed, yeah, okay, maybe that is true. Maybe that fish can zap people. And, okay, maybe it is true. Two different metals might be able to bring an animal's leg to life. And there's all these weird different phenomena. And Volta brought all this different weird stuff together under the electromagnetic field, and we had lived in it our entire lives, but didn't know we had access to it and how to use it. And I believe now this is another field. This is another substrate. This is another way to interact deeply with our universe that we don't completely know yet, but we're pinning down the phenomena. And I think, I can think of tests and experiments that should be done that could garner metrics about aspects of the phenomena. And I think those are the things that should have a priority on them. I think those who display repeatedly at a high level, those people should be, included in these experiments. And I think what it will do is nail down this new substrate, whether it's the universe itself, we're connecting right into the whole shape of the whole universe because we're part of it, we're not visitors, or whether it's something else. But the rewards of understanding this more fully is likely why aerospace executives seem to have a big fascination with ESP. And if it is true, there is this substrate that people like myself can tap into, and everyone can, then you would expect, in fact, it would mandate that a more advanced civilization would know about it and be able to utilize it. And the consequences of them being 200 years more advanced than us even, think about the electromagnetic field. We weren't using it 200 years ago. Now, you can't do anything without the electromagnetic field. All electricity, everything. So I think if these others were hostile, we would have been gone a long time ago. And I don't know what, the meta structure is, and then the meta structure in that, and then the meta system in that, and the meta systems within what we can create in the future. I just hope we can just keep spreading and surviving like a life form. We got a lot of challenges right in front of us. And something I read today, this is going to be really corny. I'm going to end it on a real corny note. I was reading a passage in the Bible, and it was saying about, Jesus was saying to the disciples, love each other, and others will see how you are. And I don't know, that's it. I think we do a good job of loving each other.
It was said earlier that the UFO community was somebody out in Twitter world said that the UFO community was too toxic. Every community has a little bit of toxicity in it because that's just natural, but this is the first time I've ever been a part of an online community to this degree, and I would not judge it as such. So I don't think that's corny at all. I think everything you said was extremely on point, and I don't think it's corny to say, hey, love everyone. And it doesn't matter if it could be coming from Jesus, Buddha, it could be coming from your neighbor. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we try to keep that in the forefront of our minds, because the more that we do that, the better off all of us will be. I see Jamie hasn't gotten to speak yet, and she popped up, and then we'll get to Just and then Taylor. Jamie, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys?
Fantastic. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. I knew that Aylin was going to say something really good. So I wanted to come up here and be able to emoji in real time instead of whatever the lag is.
Yep.
And I can't remember something else I was going to say. So never mind. I'll raise my hand later. Thanks.
No problem. No problem. We're happy to have you here. You and your dog.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's just someone's using an appliance that she hates.
That's so cute.
So she goes mental.
That's funny.
Yeah, not really when you have to deal with it all the time. I'm sure you guys know, but I was watching a podcast, I forget which one, with James Fox and the being from Virginia.
Mm.
And sorry.
No, it's fine. You're honestly, like, the things happening on your end are adding to the laughter in the space tonight, which is just fine.
Sorry, I just got a call, so
No, it's fine.
My life is a little real time now. Sorry.
No, that's totally fine. All right, so how about we'll jump over to Taylor real quick, and then we'll we'll jump back to you, Taylor.
Yeah, I really appreciated what Alien said, and I do. I feel like that supported aspect. I mean, like no other, I don't know, online community that I have. Of course, I'm from Texas, and I've been a psychic for 10 years, so I don't get a lot of support per se from my environment. And but yeah, it's been a really open space, and I love that. Astral does the remote viewing thing. God, I hope I'm on. Because I mean, does that mean I'm not psychic if I'm not like dead on balls? What's in what's in that that envelope? I don't know, man. I don't know. Have to
I
tell
still
my
have to
clients.
try it out myself. I've never.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to learn how to do remote viewing just because I'm so fascinated with the consciousness non-locality. But personally, I want to ask you, since you said that you're a practicing medium and psychic. What is it like for you having those kinds of experiences and knowing that about yourself, and then having someone tell you that they think that you're kind of just putting on a show, or you're cold reading or anything like that? Like, how do you deal with that?
I just direct them to like my clients' ratings, of me.
Right.
And I'm just like, just leave me alone. Just go look at those or something. Here, eat this. Leave me alone.
That makes sense. I feel like if I was in that space too, that's probably how I would handle it. It's tough because there's a lot of people out there that are full of it.
One of the things that we've talked about, and I think Taylor, you just talked about, is like, how do I know if I'm good at remote viewing? Like, dude, the way that I think about remote viewing is like baseball. And it's not, if you were to judge somebody by one at bat, you would have no idea if they're a good hitter or not, really.
It's perfect.
But if you were to have 100 at bats and then see your average compared to everybody else, or to, in this case, compared to chance,
that's a fire.
You would be able to see if you were actually a good remote viewer and had some sort of ability that was separate, like ESP, than if you weren't. So a lot of people put it all on like one thing, is like it. And I think it's funny is like, I'll do the remote viewing and like people are like, all right, it's all or nothing on this. Like either I'm a psychic or I'm not. I'm like, dude, you don't got to put it all on one thing. Like do it 10 times and see if you get it 6 or 5 out of 10 times and you're only supposed to get it 2.5 times, then you're doing a good job. And I think the same thing with baseball. If you're a 200, 250, 300 something hitter, you're one of the best hitters in the league. And I think a lot of people, that's how I see remote viewing in terms.
That's a great metaphor, man.
Yeah, it's perfect.
That's kind of like the one that people ask me all the time. Were you just born with this? And it's like, everybody's born with a measure of this. I mean, if you're human, you have a human spirit built in for like your whole life and stuff. But like, I mean, like, okay, so Chris Cornell was just born to be a musician. Bruce Lee was just born to do Jeet Kune Do. But anybody can be taught how to play the guitar or fight. It's the same with being psychic.
Right. It's no different than any other trait or ability. And of course you can be born with an aptitude for it, or some genetic advantages for certain things, but like you're saying, I believe it's a capability that is within everybody. And again, it's just a muscle that we're not taught to exercise. You don't go to school and have your teacher tell you, hey, we're going to line you kids up and we're going to bring out a random number generator and see how you do. They don't test for those types of things.
And how much more fun would school be if we did that?
I'd go back. I'd go back. Why not? Just, your hand is raised. Let's hear from you again.
I hope I can get through this without the noise or the barking. To finish off what I said before, there in Virginia, the Fox said that he got a bunch of John Lear tapes, and the being had John Lear interviewed or said that the being had said to the doctors, I feel sorry for you humans because you don't realize your potential.
Right. Yep.
And who you are. And I wonder, like, really, who are we? And it makes you question all that. What was he meaning by potential? And even the best remote viewers aren't 100%. That's one thing you have to realize. And even ones that are more psychic, like Joe McMonagle, he says his average is like, I forget what it is, but he's not 100%. Because I don't know why.
Well, does Michael Jordan hit 100% of his free throws? Does LeBron James make 100% of his 3-pointers? Did Babe Ruth hit 100% of the baseballs that were thrown his way? No, So it's again, it's just physics and human capability. It's the same thing. If you're dealing with someone who's a genuine medium, sometimes a reading may not go right because there's a lot of data and energy out there in the ether, out in the field, and sometimes you may pick up a frequency that is coming in from somewhere that you didn't plan for. It's kind of like when you're tuning your radio and it's like, what is that noise? It's really similar. I mean, at least I think, and it's funny because I would say that there's a very high percentage of people that when they've had a psychic experience, they weren't looking for it. It just happened. Like that's like I had a very wild precognitive incident occur not all that long ago, and it just happened out of nowhere, and I didn't expect it. I wasn't even thinking about it. Like I was just kind of zoned out reading something, and it just happened. So that tells me that it's something that's there, and if it can happen, it can be controlled. So I feel like it's something that as humans progress through time and as we evolve, I feel that we could have a generation. I don't know how long it would take, but maybe a few generations after ours, or at least mine. I was born in '89. That we could be dealing with telepathic children, so to speak, or human beings that have an ability to use the psychic internet or tap into the collective consciousness, if you will. So I feel that if we encourage people to meditate and to focus on keeping their mind sharp, these abilities may very well begin to arise a hell of a lot more prominently as more and more children are born. I don't know if any of you knew this, but apparently back, when we were still hunter-gatherers, a child could be born with knowledge of where a water source would be, and they would remember it because memories were being passed down to them through their parents genetically, which I found fascinating. And that's scientifically researched. That's not something that was, just an idea that was thrown out, or somebody said, hey, what if they somehow figured out a way to determine this. I'm not really sure how. I'd have to dig deeper, but if we're able to pass down memories through DNA, what else can we do? And it's funny that you mentioned the Virginia alien, because I've heard that exact thing too, that it's a shame because you're capable of so much. And I believe that story happened. So, take that as you will. A being from somewhere else had that to say about us in the situation that it was in. That's heavy. That's really, really heavy and something to think about. So let's see who is next. All right, let's go to we'll go to Jamie again, and then we'll do Cody, because he's been waiting for a bit, and then we'll go to Majestic, and then we'll go to Alien. We'll try to remember all of that in that order. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, thank you. That's so perfect, because it was funny as I was digging in my backpack, and just as you said precog, I was grabbing my hand wrapped around my heart notepad thing that I write my positive precognitive remote viewing target numbers on. So I thought that was fun.
Perfect.
And then yes, exactly. And then something else you said. But I can't remember what it is right now. So
I said a lot. I ramble a lot. I apologize.
It's okay. I loved it. I can't remember what I was gonna say about it, like, because I was trying to remember that, and and do other stuff at the same time. So anyway, thank you.
No problem. No, my brain is a hurricane, as some of you may find. I may seem cohesive and very collected in my YouTube videos or on the podcast, but if I start going, I start going. I know that about myself. I try to contain it. All right, so let's go to Cody, because I know you've been waiting for a bit. How you doing, man?
Hi there.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, yeah. I just I wanted to ask you about the telepathy thing. What do you think? What do you think people? What do you think people? Oh fuck.
No, you're fine. Take your time. Take your time. I know sometimes we're all dealing with stuff in the background. The fact that most of you are kind of confined to your phones makes it a little bit more difficult. Whereas, like, I hacked the Matrix here, and I'm using my actual microphone on my computer.
Nice.
I think this might be a question that would be
man.
suited for Astro. If we're talking telepathy and ESP, I feel like Astro would be the foremost expert. I mean, that's an area that I'm very, very knowledgeable in, but I know Astro probably lives for that. So Astro, I think this is going to be one for you, my friend.
Go ahead, Cody. What's up, bro?
I'm sorry. I'm having a mind battle with somebody. That's why I've been having trouble talking to you. There's other people here that do it too. Do you understand? Do you misunderstand, or do you understand? Like, I'm able to talk to you in your head, and they're able to too. So I'm not the only one that does it. So if you get bad thoughts from somebody, that's them. Okay? That's why I'd be able to tell you how much. I know a lot about aliens and stuff like that. I just can't really get it out if they won't let me say it. They have some kind of machine. It's called like a melatonin, like a telephonic machine. It allows you to talk through people, and I've been taught through it since I was little. This man's been doing it to me. I got a whole story behind it. I ain't told you all about it. The man sits there and messes with me all day long, and doesn't stop. You know, and his daughter just come here and they're like, man, we don't really care what you're like, and we don't really care what your life's like, but we got these machines right here, and we'll just sit here and control you. There ain't nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean? And they're the people that fucking go around messing with people all day long. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say about it. All I can say is, dude has machines capable of doing things that normal people can't do. And he's invisible. Yeah, and I've got like telepathize powers because I saved a bunch of the commands that he had in there. He has like commands and stuff, and like alien stuff. So like I said a few of them in my head, and he started talking to God and people like that in the spirit realm. Like he has machines that talk to him from CERN and stuff like that. So like, we were sitting there, and all of a sudden he was talking to the spirits, and he set it to a counter for like you know, like if you were to say you wanted to talk to the ground, you'd set it to whatever the ground is, and then it sets it if you want to talk to something that's in space, you set it to really far in space, up or down, left or right. And it's just like a big ass satellite thing that shoots up the beam into the sky. It's invisible.
That I've always wondered if there were Peter Jackson is somebody who talks about like a physical device that is able to hold up. I'm on my mic. Got a lot going on there. Everybody's got dogs and shit. But I do wonder if there's some sort of physical device that's able to bring out to you know, a location and generate, you know, the phenomenon happening, whether it's paranormal or UFO stuff. I didn't really hear anything about telepathy, so I'll keep the conversation going around. But appreciate you, Cody, jumping up here, man. Majestic, what's up, dude?
Yo, yeah, I just was quite interested what Thomas was saying earlier about dimensions and connections. I had experiences about 8 years ago where I really wanted some. I could feel like there was something else, and strongly sort of was thinking about it all the time. And I started getting woken up in the middle of the night, and there was I could see someone. And when I closed my eyes, I could see it clearly that there was like somebody there. Over the years, I kind of presumed it was a spirit which was guiding me, and it showed me various things. The majority of the time, they tried to show me symbols like hieroglyphics, but I didn't understand them. And eventually, I don't know if they just sort of didn't really sort of realise they wasn't getting anywhere with showing me these things, and eventually he guided me into this like black void where there was all these just blue transparent humans, and he took me there 3 times over the space of a couple of months, and it was incredible. It was just it was like with your eyes opening on a perfect clear day, and it was when I was wide awake. Each time I could open my eyes, look out the door, look out on the landing, the lights were on and everything, but I could still see him, and I could close my eyes and he would just kind of beckon me to sort of go to his right, and it was like I was looking through the middle of my head, like when people say the third eye experience. That was how I would see it. It wouldn't come straight away, but I could see a light, and then eventually it would go from this sort of grainy black and white, where I could see the spirit, into this black. It was like a very dark void with just thousands upon thousands of blue human beings, males and females. Even a couple of babies I saw as well. But most remarkable experience I've ever had in my life. It was 100% real. It's very surreal. And when I was actually in this sort of void viewing it, it was all sort of, none of them were communicating with each other. It was all looking forward. Some were talking, some were just nodding, some were just standing there, but none of them were communicating with each other. But you could see that they were all in the middle of something. You could see that it'd be like looking at a vacant person in front of you that wasn't actually there. You could tell, they were somewhere else daydreaming, and that's how every single one of them were. And that happened 3 times, and it would last for about, the second and third time would last for about 3.5 minutes, and I couldn't hold it any longer than that. And the most amazing thing about it was when I was in that particular place, my whole body felt like it was on fire. It was, every single emotion in my body was 1,000 times higher than it would be normally. It was just, my body was just like, I can't even explain it. It was just unbelievable. And then it didn't happen after that, because I had another experience which I just shut it all down, and I've never been again. But yeah, just from what you were saying, I don't know whether I saw another dimension or I don't know what it was, but I know it was 100% real, because you can't do that. I tried to do it in the day, tried to meditate in the day to do it. There's no other way I can bring it up, no other way I can connect to what I think was a spirit. I tried and I couldn't do it in the day. So it was just literally when they would wake me up. One time they woke me up, it was like when you put 2 fingers, if you make a gun with your hand, 2 fingers, they just prod me in the side of the neck to wake me up. I was definitely woke up one time. It's just like when you go hiss, just a massive hiss in my ear. So that makes you shoot. It was definitely a terrible experience, and it was 100% real. I wouldn't lie about it. It's just one of those things I can't explain, and I know ever since that happened, it changed me for life. So just wanted to share that. Cheers.
That was like super detailed and intense. I was able to formulate the imagery in my head the entire time you were speaking. I appreciate you sharing that, man. That was actually really interesting. I find that those types of experiences, when people go into detail like that, I find it more believable, to be honest. So that was actually really kind of be thinking about that for a little bit. What's up, Taylor?
Yeah, it is true. Honestly, I wouldn't lie to you.
I believe you, man.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I do believe you had that experience for sure.
No point in lying.
Right. It's not really going to do you any good, right?
Yeah, I believe you too. I've had my own experiences, and what I was going to ask was, is this something? Have you crossed this astral? And here's this word again, Thomas: consciousness-assisted technology.
Oh, that's really interesting that you.
That keeps coming up tonight. I didn't mean for it to. Consciousness comes up for. I guess it comes up for me a lot. I consider myself a Taoist.
Right.
Yeah.
Very familiar.
Yeah. But
well,
consciousness-assisted technology, is that something? And I always think of Cerebro. If astral's the foremost on like telepathy, wouldn't we be looking at something like just like, and I'm thinking in terms of like Neuralink, with that Elon Musk is creating.
Right.
Yeah. I look into when you mention that term, what comes to mind for me is what Robert Monroe was looking at. In that, if there was a way to me, what I feel like Robert Monroe's goal was to have some sort of method to intentionally have people have an out-of-body experience.
Right.
Now, whether that's through audio stimulation or a physical thing that you like put on your chest and it sends sound waves through you while you're sleeping and you have an out-of-body experience. Like, I feel like he was on that level. Like, he's like, okay, how do you have an assisted out-of-body experience? Like, that's the key to me, is like, how do you make that connection?
That's very interesting.
I was a heroin addict when I discovered that deep meditation kind of gets you high.
Without going into too much detail, Taylor, I know where you're coming from. I'll just say that. That's and Monroe's work is astounding. I was actually able to get my hands on all of the tapes, obviously in digital format and PDF for these gateway protocols.
Dude, one of the really interesting things, and we're doing a space on Saturday. I'm Hollywood. Who's great host and person in the community. I love her. She's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic.
Is hosting. We're hosting a space together with a trainer from the Monroe Institute. But one of the couple of interesting things that I've recently found out about the Monroe Institute is they have developed their own CE5, which is called the Starline program.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so we're gonna go over that a little bit, where it combines binaural beats made by Monroe and their technology with sounds that have been recorded in space, in the space atmosphere. Dude. And so that's the method that's used for them. And so
what time is that going to be?
It's Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
I'm gonna be at work, but you don't be surprised if you see me in the crowd.
It's recorded, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. We're definitely recording it. And one of the surprising things that I recently found out, just through meeting with a couple of guys locally here, was that Monroe had a program. I mean, they had their Stargate program where or not the Stargate, but the binaural beat one. But they also had a program where people were basically trying to have out-of-body experiences and then transition people from dying to their afterlife. And so I was like, that was their whole goal, was to have an out-of-body experience and to transition people to the other side and to the next stage. And so I was like, dang, that's crazy.
That's so interesting to me. Like, anytime I hear stuff like this, my ears just perk up. I don't know if it's some natural, I don't know. It's like I'm drawn to that type of thing when I hear that. That is just mind blowing. And what's really funny too? The fact that they even developed any of these things, it kind of tells me that they've already had success in certain areas where they felt that they could then progress to these other areas. So that's something to think about.
Absolutely, dude.
Alien Protocols. I've seen you've had your hand up for quite a while. So why don't you hop back in, buddy?
I'd love to, man. Thanks. You know, we're not given like the cliff notes or instruction manual on our bodies, and it kind of sucks. And if we could learn how to do things that you can buy a Muse, which is an electroencephalogram, and also has a heart rate detector on it, and it can teach you how to spike any of your brain waves. Each brainwave state creates a different type of brain activity that's conducive for different types of events. And when you learn to control your brainwave states, you can optimize certain circumstances, and you can be more, intensely intuitive. You can be more creative. You can be more focused and diligent and detail-oriented. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I've got 3 different types of EEGs, and so I've done a lot of my ESP work and to see how my brain reacts under different circumstances, and trained myself to a certain degree how to do different things, and have noticed different effects that are personal to me. But even if just kids learned how to control their own heart rate, kids get like that, if they could just learn to control that. And earlier it was talking about talking about people when they go to you and say, hey, prove that you're a psychic or you're not a psychic or whatever. I've been challenged like 5 times on Twitter in the past, year and a half. And I take all of them. And it's not really, it's an opportunity for you to kind of guide them through the science at first before you give them the little trick that they want. You don't dance like a monkey for somebody. You let them know about the science, this, that, and the other. You can even do what they did at Stanford Research Institute, is make them do their very first control remote viewing like they did to the auditors, the CIA auditors who came. And, it was a brilliant strategy. But I think that...
Great point, dude.
I just think there's so many important aspects of this that are already known, and that we just need the training. I exercise a lot. Someone was saying before how it's like, it's exercise. You have to exercise a lot to have really high, consistently high, output of your data. And if you're doing unverifiable targets, you really want to be doing really well on your verifiable targets. And if you're asking someone for information on an unverifiable target, you should know how good they are on verifiable targets. There's a lot of great psychics, and there's a lot of psychics who could be a lot greater. One of the people who challenged me is you guys, Astral was like Tyler Henry and others have, and Tyler's a really high level psychic.
How did he do that?
You didn't hear this story?
No, I don't think I did.
He contacted me anonymously and said, I heard you're really good at remote viewing. Can you prove it to me? And he had 2 images on his desk, and I drew them. And you can go look at his Twitter feed where he mentions that.
I did see that story, actually. Yep.
It's
I didn't know that it was Tyler Henry, though. I didn't put that 2 and 2 together, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's the real deal. And it was interesting how, and there's other stuff, but it doesn't matter. Names don't matter. It's the fact that we all have the same exact ability, and if you exercise it, don't do the Zener cards. That's a actual test. It's not an exercise. That'll make you depressed. Do something that has some sort of biophysical response, like the ESP trainer from Russell Targ, which gives you vibration, sight, sound, all these different psychological and sensory inputs that can go to your subconscious. And there's a bunch of things you can do. I sent my ESP tips to Astral, and if anyone wants, you can just DM me and I'll send you them. They're just my thoughts. But if you want to work on it, And I'm always.
Oh, dude, I'm already. I'm gonna repurpose them for the remote viewing space tomorrow, if you don't mind, and get them in a nice graphic or something.
I'll be DMing. Oh, I think you sent. I think you actually did send me some stuff in DMs already.
Oh, it's great stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna be reading over
that,
them.
man. Just any sort of advice. And a lot of the times during the remote viewing space, I don't like to go through it too much before. But buddy, man, I mean, what you sent me, and I think just any advice to me of people who have been remote viewing seriously is of great value in the community, man. So thank you, dude.
If I could actually ask real quick from you, Astral, for the people like myself who are kind of interested in it, what do you think the biggest benefit from remote viewing is? Like if someone just a regular person like myself just wants to learn it, what's like the main benefit I'm going to receive from exercising that type of ability?
I think the recognition and the confirmation that it's actually possible of it taking place. So, like my first, like I don't consider myself a good remote viewer or astral projector or anything. I'm a lot more focused on the testing aspect of it. But when I first did my remote viewing, it was a video that I was attempting to remote view. But I think as soon as I experienced it, there was personal confirmation. It's a little bit, to me, there's a difference between personal confirmation and experiencing it than receiving the evidence of it, to seeing like, oh, look at all this data, like you need to believe it now, and like actually participating in the event itself and experiencing it firsthand. And I think that's the powerful aspect of it, is like I'm just really just providing a platform for people to try it and to have that personal experience of, it might not be, you get the exact thing, but you kind of get to the ability to explore that and to kind of practice or to try it out.
That's really, really exciting. I'm looking forward to testing it out, and hopefully as a result, maybe keep my brain healthy, because that's always a good thing to do, right? Let's see, who else was here that had your hand up? All right, let's go with Just, because I think your hand has been raised for a while.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that you can teach anyone this. I taught a boyfriend at the time. He actually got target the first session. So, and he was a total skeptic. So, as long as for the process that I learned, as long as you learn the protocols and everyone can do this. So you're not special if you can do it.
Well, how did you get him to legitimately try it for the first time if he was skeptical?
Because he was always saying blah, 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 So I said, okay, so try it. These are the protocols. I had they give you these cue cards where you can look through. They give you ideas about textures, whatever. And the first ideogram that he produced was correct. It was right on. It was water. It was a lake that I basically gave him, and he drew a boat on a lake.
It blows my mind.
What?
Those ideograms blow my mind. How accurate
it's so on. Like for God, I drew a figure 8 and this huge, like a circle. Actually, it was the circle that kept going and going and going and going. One of my targets was like esoteric, and this energy. And to answer your question about what is good about learning remote viewing, it's not only proving it to yourself, it's self-discovery. It's also can be used to answer questions like simple about your life. I wouldn't use it as like, should I cross the street? But you could use it for general questions about your life. I had a plumbing problem. I've said this before. I used it and it was spot on. I lost keys and I knew exactly where those keys were. They were behind my washing machine. How the heck did I know it? I just knew it from the session where it was in such a strange place, So, it's useful, I guess.
I lose stuff so often. Like when every day I go to work, I deliver furniture at my day job, and like maybe like my earbud will fall out, or I'll like drop my vape or something. So now I'm really now I'm like really amped to learn it. Like if I could sharpen my ability to find the stuff that I lose on a daily basis, that would be like incredible. Also, I just wanted to give a special shout out to Hey Ocean because I see she joined. I think she's actually like one of the sweetest people in the community. I just wanted to like recognize the fact that she was here, and I'm happy to see her in the crowd tonight. Taylor, I believe you're next in line.
Yeah, well, I'm just really digging the energy. My whole thing with remote viewing is I just haven't really done that much of it yet. I've done a lot of the psychic thing, and just not that much remote viewing. So, they don't really have any like advanced psychic classes yet. It's all like beginner stuff.
Or you
But, well, not near me.
So you're talking classes that you could attend in person.
Well, or just ways to, like you guys were saying, to exercise your abilities, outside of just like the normal, like 9 to 5 readings that I do.
Right. Yeah, I've never attended anything like that before. Anything even close. It's all been online. Just me kind of reading and listening to people like Astral and yourself, obviously. Just, I mean, I've been studying these things since I was a child. I'll say this too, real quick, and then I'll get to Majestic. Aside from UFOs, but just the psychic side of things and parapsychology and human ability, in the mental frame. The whole reason that I even fell into that rabbit hole, if you even want to call it that, is I accidentally astral projected when I was 9. I think I told Astral about this. I was laying on the floor in the office upstairs, and my mom and I were actually watching a Stephen King movie called Needful Things. And if any of you know what I'm talking about, that's really great. If not, you should go watch it. It's pretty cool. I think it was made for TV, but it was I have fond memories of that one. That's a creepy one. And I fell asleep kind of near the end of the movie because it was like the third or fourth time we had watched it. And I noticed that I was looking down at my dad in the kitchen cutting peppers and onions. And I had been upstairs all day, and my dad had gotten home from work. I said hi to him, but I had no idea what he was doing. And then I'm like moving around my house. Things kind of looked like a little hazy, but it was just kind of weird. And I woke up and with like a huge jolt, and my mom even saw it too. She was just like, "Whoa, having a dream there?" And I was like, yeah, I guess." And I go downstairs, and my dad is cutting peppers and onions, and I'm like,
cutting them peppers, yeah.
I'm like, wait a second. So like, now this is the earlier days of the internet, but we had the internet since like 95, 96. So I had very early access to the internet, and I went on some weird, like, the search engines back in the day were applications that you had to run, and I searched weird phrases to try to describe what I was going through, and I finally landed on like floating out of your body, and then I saw OBE, clicked on OBE, and then that led to NDE with astral projection. So that's kind of how I began to learn about all of those things. Majestic, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, I was just thinking about your story now. I was just going to say that when I was going through what I was going through, and stuff happened to me prior to that as well when I was younger. I saw future events up to about the age of 12 or 13. And I would say that I think these things happen because it depends what state of mind you're in, and I think it depends on how positive you are as a person. Sort of later on in my life, when when I was sort of encountering that being, I was super positive about it, and I knew there was something happening, and my body and my mindset was all positive, and I think that's the key to it for anybody who wants to try this stuff, is not try too hard. Keep your mind relaxed, and if it's, I don't know, but I can't speak from experience, but I think if there's anything majorly negative going on in your life, it might sort of inhibit these abilities. But I'm really I'm sort of getting back to the point where I might try it again, but I definitely believe it's more than one. Just, I think the phenomena's connected in different ways, and I think there's other possibilities. I've got some kind of inkling of what there's other things definitely you can do. I wouldn't sort of say them to anybody right now because I don't know 100%, but I've got my suspicions about other things that you can do as you start to progress in it. But I've sent Buddy a DM, and I'm hoping he's going to send me some information on astral projection and stuff. So that was all I was going to say. Stay positive. I think that is the key to it, to be honest. Cheers.
Yeah, man, I think you're on the money there too, and I also think another thing that's kind of along the same lines that would probably affect or potentially inhibit your abilities or boost them is your own personal belief in those abilities. Like if you go out as an athlete, like I'm a huge fan of basketball. I played in high school for my varsity team. If you go out on the court believing that you're going to lose, it's going to strengthen and raise the chances of you losing. You know, you have to really internally believe that you are capable of said ability. And I feel like that may potentially lead you in a more positive direction and get better results as a result. Jamie, welcome back.
Thank you. Yes. I don't think it was precog, but I think because when you asked the question about like what would learning about remote viewing or doing it be able to help you with, that's what popped into my head was finding things that you lose. And then you ended up saying that later, so that was fun for me.
That's perfect.
I'm sure lots of other people thought of it too, but that's fun. It's fun to be the getting being receptive it feels fun. Precog feels fun for me, so I enjoy that. And then also, oh gosh, what was it? God, I don't know why it's doing that for me today. I keep forgetting the second thing that I was gonna say. Darn, that's okay.
Oh, just make something up.
Right? Yeah, no.
Here, I'll ask you a question, Jamie. Just since we're all here and this is the UFO community, have you ever had any experiences with the phenomenon?
Oh yeah. I'm missing time and body marks and precog, and I've seen things moving. I have 20 things now from the Astral took a picture of the slide for the Chris Bledsoe super experiencer list of experiences or whatever. And I have 20 of the 34 of those.
Wow.
So, yeah. And, you know, my husband and I've seen multiple things. He has body marks too from this December. We both got body marks from then. And so,
gosh.
yeah. And, yeah, I love precog stuff. It's fun for me. It's weird sometimes, but it's helped me so many times. Been saved from so many accidents that, you know, I just learned to really trust it, and because it always pays off to trust it.
That is a human instinct. Real quick, my mom and I, a few years ago, my dad was in a major accident and he almost lost his life. Luckily, he's still here with us and working and still alive and kicking. And we were visiting him in the hospital, and we were standing outside of the elevators, and there was just a random guy by the elevators. Looked like he was just waiting for one of them to come up, and he had headphones on. And before we got in the elevator, my mom grabbed me by the arm and she was like, "Oh, hey, I forgot something in the room." So we started walking back in that direction, but she looked like really tense and nervous. And I'm like, "Mom, are you all right? What's up?" And she was like, "I don't know why." She was like, "But I just got a really, really, really wicked bad feeling about that guy." And I'm like, I mean, he's got his headphones on. We're in the middle of a hospital. She's like, "Tom, I couldn't ignore it. I'm sorry. Let's just wait. Let's maybe take the stairs or something." To this day, it's like, who knows? But why ignore that, right? Why even chance it? But I feel like people have those kinds of abilities. I'm going to be doing a video not too long from now about something that actually happened to me while I was working. And all I'll say, because I don't want to give away too much, because, I want you to watch the video, obviously, is that when I was out doing a delivery, I avoided a group of people shooting up an apartment by like 20 seconds. So that was kind of intense and scary and a weird week. But I think we all have that. We get that sense that something's just off, and you'll know it's not you just being paranoid, because it'll happen in such a way that you weren't even paying attention to the environmental factors associated with the thing. Like it just hits you, and then it's what actually draws your attention to those environmental factors, which is really fascinating because I've experienced it. Alien Protocols.
Hey, if someone asks me what does RV do for your life, I think it does a lot of really cool things. But foremost, it teaches you the power of selflessness. Yes, you learn about yourself, but you learn even more as you become more selfless. And you get more richer flavors and colors and textures of life than you did before. And I also think it opens up a lot of, just countless other great things within you. Even if you're not a great remote viewer, but if you're 20% correct even on some of the aesthetics, that's usable data. Anyway, I think it's just part of our natural integration with reality, things that we can do that we don't even know we can do. That kid, Ben, who taught himself how to do echolocation, could detect all the different textures and things around him, could ride a bicycle. He taught himself real echolocation, completely blind, and that ability that he proved could happen made, I think there's 12 people now who are doing it, blind people, to an incredibly high level. You'd be stunned when you see it. So you can do echolocation if you practiced it. I don't even know what I can't do, Well, maybe I do. I love you guys.
We love you too, man. That's incredible. I've actually never heard that before, the echolocation bit. That's something I'm gonna have to look into. I'm gonna have to make a video about that. That's incredible. I'm thinking of, bats and whatnot. That is absolutely insane. Jesus.
But what was even more incredible is he was an incredible person. He knew he was dying too at a certain point because he had this very virulent cancer. That's why he lost his eyes. And he was so loving and such a wise soul. He was doing all these amazing things to make it easier for his mom and those around him during his passing. So,
oh, wow.
His love was more, it always is the case with these abilities. The greatest ability is love, ultimately.
I agree with that. I actually have told people, I've even gone as far as saying that I kind of believe that love is a fundamental force of nature, kind of like gravity and electromagnetism and all the other things that we witness around us in a physical sense. I feel like love is actually a force. I really don't believe it's just a combination of chemicals firing off in your brain and mixing together for you to feel something. I actually feel more like it's like a wave that gets generated by a conscious being that kind of spreads out and then is able to affect things around it. But that's just me, right? Who knows? Maybe I'm just nuts, right?
Resonance, empathy, it's resonance.
Yeah, I believe it. I really do believe that.
Hey guys, I'm gonna keep this just a heads up. I'm gonna keep this space going for about 10 more minutes. Thanks again, Thomas and Ty, for co-hosting and helping me out, and everybody, all the speakers that have come up. It's been an absolutely fantastic discussion. So we can just keep it kind of rolling, man. JJ and then Taylor.
Yeah, talking about love or talking about, I think human beings, you get into a space, you can be in a space alone and you can enjoy it. But then when you're with someone else doing the same thing, it almost can, if you're on the same level, almost can become like a spiritual experience. I'm not talking about boyfriend and girlfriend, could be like friends enjoying dinner, it's almost like we need that connection. We need each other kind of to feed off, yeah, I don't know what I'm coming up with, but regarding remote viewing, you can also use it, like some people do use it for financial gain. I didn't. because that's just not what I'm kind of geared for, or like orientated towards. But you can use it for that as well, I'm sure.
I mean, you could try, but to be completely honest, it's extremely difficult. And the select cases of people who have actually been successful is with associative remote viewing, which is basically, say you were trying to remote view who are you going to bet on to win the Super Bowl, okay? And there were two teams playing. You would have a
you do the colors, right?
Well, you would do a target for one team and a target for another team, and then you would try to associate your target or your submission with one of those teams. And so whoever would win, then you would compare the that target associated with the winner with that. And so the person who was the most successful, he ended up getting like, it was over like 10 years. He made like $200,000, but the thing was, is like he did it like 6,000 times. You know what I'm saying? Like he was doing it every single day, and so I think when people assume that like you could just make a couple bets, remote view it, and make some money. Like you got to do it thousands of times.
I'm talking about like, okay, there's other ways of doing it. Like some people hired Joe McMoneagle, some companies. He's hired by companies. Like some viewers are hired by companies to find out if they should make certain moves or where the.
Well, yeah, I think there are ethical. There's some ethical things too, where remote viewers now are able to recognize. Like, there's Facebook groups in which remote viewers, in which anonymous people will be like, "I'll pay $5,000 for you to remote view something," and then they remote view and they're like, "Remote view my business competition and see what they're doing," and they're like, "It's kind of fucked up," you know. Like, there's ethical questions being brought up right now with remote viewers.
I would agree, and I think that all of us have a responsibility to stay on the right side of the line, to be honest. I mean, if we can see beyond the five senses, that we kind of, I personally choose not to profit from it financially. I worked with a client who did and made like 80 grand in 2 months sports betting. And that's fine. I don't judge anybody, but it's just something I choose not to do. But I would encourage everybody, just if you're able to work beyond the five senses, just stay on the right side of the line, guys. Honestly, you know, we can do well without kind of cheating, really. That's just my sort of 5 cents. Sorry for interrupting.
No, I think that's reasonable. I was just thinking this whole time while I'm listening to all of that, remote viewing for profit, at least just for me personally, would feel kind of like dirty. So I'm gonna not do that. But there's certain things I would be more interested in remote viewing, like the remote past, or you know other planets, or things that I couldn't maybe physically go and visit.
Yeah.
Maybe like the JFK assassination,
Thomas,
that type of thing.
Thomas, yeah. I did a session. I was standing in a river on Mars. It was like a basin. I swear to you. I bilocated to, and I didn't even know it was a blind session. I didn't know where I was, but I got an idea after a while, after, what I got from my session. So, I mean, if that's your thing, then, try it.
I may.
I'm not saying you will bilocate, but after a while I did, after doing.
Wow. That's
session.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I would encourage
session.
you to keep a lookout for my my next YouTube video. It's not about remote viewing, but it is about Mars and something to do with Mars, and something that may have happened or may not have happened in Mars's prehistoric past, we'll say.
Here we go. Now we're talking.
I wanted to jump in really quick about remote viewing used to make profit. It has been used to make profit and documented. Russell Targ, I think, even talks about it in the Third Eye Spies. They did a silver market the first time, and I think all of their trades were profit. And then the group got a little greedy. And this is what happens. It's warned about in 2,000-year-old texts, that if you stay on the path of virtue, these things are vistas. They're pretty things to see, but don't get distracted by them. Stay on the path of virtue. And so there's this underground belief system that says if you get greedy, I can only gamble or use the ability in my world, in my sphere, under the right kind of circumstances. I went with Dr. Gallenberger to Vegas. Dr. Gallenberger is from the Monroe Institute. He's one of the few PK researchers and scientists and authors who's also a practitioner, and turned, $300 into, I think it was 35, but, made it 32. And each of the different gambling devices are random number generators or things that can be used for psychokinesis. So it can be used under the right circumstances. Gambling can be used under the right circumstances if, but not everyone is bound by this good thing. But it's been known for thousands of years that it contains, if you walk the path, you will get more and more of these things will appear. And a lot of people lose their abilities when they go, they start to get a little bit, their ego starts to get a little piped up. I was refreshed to hear someone say that they don't charge. I think a lot of the practitioners don't charge because you're trying to put a good name back on this subject. Of course we take donations and we have to survive. But Edgar Cayce was the same way. He wouldn't take, he didn't charge anyone.
Dude, that's a great point. And honestly, of all the people who I've researched in parapsychology and psychic research, who were the people who were tested, like the psychics, who were thought of as psychics, and the most credible did not charge at all. They never charged people.
That's absolutely true. I can actually attest to that as well. And Edgar Cayce, I mean, I don't think I even need to say anything about him. We all know who he is.
Cool, man. Let's get around the room and then we'll close this thing out, man. Jamie, go ahead, and then JJ.
Thank you. Yes. I remembered what I was going to say. It was about accidentally astral projecting and like, flying around. And I've done that in my teenage years. And then, sorry, my husband's funny. Anyway, and then also when I was in my early 20s and, I was just listening to this beautiful album, Mer de Noms by Perfect Circle, and I stayed to listen to the music. My consciousness stayed to listen while I was taking a nap. And it was a really pleasant, it was so beautiful. I just stayed there. And then I noticed I could see my entire room, and I couldn't see the cat or anything else that, my boyfriend was, I couldn't see that, but I knew I was seeing my room, and I just, went go adventuring, looking at stuff flying around. So it's just a lot of fun, and I didn't know you could remote view like that. Like, I didn't put it together. So like, it just seemed like, even though I knew that I've done it before, like before when we were doing one of your remote viewing spaces, I was saying like, oh, you don't have to do this, because it seemed like a lot of work to like try to go out of your body and go put your, like, joking around, putting your face in the envelope and looking to see what it is. Because Dr. Julie Mossbridge talks about like, hey, just imagine that it's already, the information is already within you, like it's already there, and you just, it comes to you because you're being receptive. So I don't know. It's just kind of funny. So it's cool that you guys can do it that way too, or whatever. I don't know how exactly it works, but
well, it's like finding your best method that works, or the way that you receive the information, the most, the best way.
I love that. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
We love you too, and I'll also say real quick that we also love, or at least I do, a perfect circle.
Oh yeah, totally. My favorite singer and my favorite guitarist. Just realized that about the favorite guitarist recently. I just was listening to live version of Buying Down the River. So yeah, it's awesome.
Absolute fire, by the way.
Totally great. Go ahead, JJ.
I just wanted to say, Jamie, that's like really cool. A really cool thought that it's all within us. Like, maybe it's within us. We just have to access it. It's not outside us. It's inside us, or part of our DNA, or part of our connection. I don't know.
All of the speakers that came up today, I appreciate all of the information and all of the discussion. Again, Ty, total disclosure. Thomas, man, Cortex, I really appreciate you, man. I'll give you the mic. Maybe let you say a few things before we close this out, dude. Thanks again.
Astral, as always, my friend, it's an honor and a pleasure to be doing these spaces with you. It's surreal to be in the spot that I'm in now and to be able to reach out to so many people and make connections from all over the world, which is just incredible. Everybody that spoke tonight was just wonderful. I'm really enjoying doing this, and just so everybody is aware, as I said before, it kind of hacked the matrix a bit. I'm doing the space from my PC, even though it's only supposed to be on mobile. So I recorded the entire space for anybody that is going to want to listen back to it, or you showed up late and kind of wanted to hear the other parts that you missed. I'm going to get it up on my YouTube channel before the end of the night, just do some minor edits to make it digestible and make it extra enjoyable for people that haven't heard it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I love all of you guys. This community is amazing, and I can't wait to do another one of these.
Awesome, man. Thank you guys again. Everybody have a good night. Check us out coming out soon. Later.